I believe in America. As President of the United States, I will always put America first, just like the leaders of other countries should put their country first also. But America first does not mean America alone. When the United States grows, so does the world.
President Trump at Davos earlier today, promoting what he calls his America First agenda, offering no new proposals today. Joining me now, Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary during the Clinton administration and economic advisor to President Obama as well. Thank you very much, Secretary Summers. Thanks for being with us. Let's talk about the president's speech at Davos. First of all, how hard was his challenge going before the global elite when he has opposed the Paris Climate Accords and dropped out of, well, he's criticized NAFTA, dropped out of TPP, and basically gone against Europe and the rest of the world on almost every economic initiative?
You know, I think people in Davos were going to be polite, and I gather they were polite to the president. Business leaders like getting their taxes cut, and that's caused them to be more accepting of a whole range of very dangerous policies that the president has put in train. You know, America first. Let's remember where that phrase first came from. It was the phrase of a movement that Lindbergh led at the end of the 1930s and 1940, showing sympathy for Germany and resisting the idea of America standing up for freedom and international cooperation in the world. So one shouldn't confuse some relatively harmonious words said in Davos with a healthy set of policies. I think this administration is the most dangerous to global prosperity and peace that we've seen since the Second World War.
Well, the president has bragged about the stock market to claim credit for the economy, has a little bump in the road with the last GDP figures for the last quarter, but the fact is that he's got some very good numbers. He won his tax cut, and businesses are happy about deregulation. How does that sales pitch play around the world?
Let's just take a few facts here. Job growth in 2017 was much slower than it was, considerably slower than it was in 2016. Every place in the world had their forecast revised upwards. There are good things happening in the global economy. The revisions upwards were much bigger in other countries than they were in the United States, and Donald Trump isn't the president of those countries. If you look at a common currency, yes, the stock market's up, but stock markets in Europe and Japan are up more than they are in the United States. And here's what I'd encourage your viewers to look at. If what was happening is what the president says is happening, that there was this huge tidal wave of capital coming into the United States because the United States had become such a great place to do business. If that's what was happening, we would think there would be a big demand for dollars and that the dollar would be going up. In fact, the dollar's had its worst year since the president was elected in more than a decade. And so that tells you that it's some other set of things that are going on, not the story that the president is trying to tell.
Now, let me drill down on a couple of the other things. The president's anti-immigration posture, his view on refugees, migration, all of that, and how that plays around the world, and the fact that we have fewer foreign students coming, less foreign investment, and less tourism here, and tourism dollars are a big deal.
Look, Andrea, we always thought of global risks as being things that happened in other places. We've now got a president who's made the United States the leading geopolitical risk in the world, and in many ways a leading risk to global prosperity. You know very well that you don't judge the health of economic policies by whether the stock market goes up over a few weeks or a few months. You can always have make a party. You can always have a party and make people feel very good. The real question is what's happening to the fundamentals, and there's not a lot to look at to be encouraging, particularly in terms of the relationship between the United States and the global economy. And as there are more and more threats of protection, more and more withdrawal of the United States from international agreements, more and more lack of trust in the United States. I mean, take something that happened in Davos this week. 11 other countries are going ahead with Trans-Pacific Partnership. That means that 10 other countries are getting privileged access to the Japanese market that we could have had, but that we lack. That's hardly a success of deal making. It's hard to imagine a greater strategic gift to China than for the United States to make a set of promises to 11 other major countries in Asia and then break those promises. That's a big gift to the Chinese in terms of their influence. It's hard to imagine a second great gift to China than for the United States to be pulling away from all the major international institutions, making room for China to have much more influence in shaping the direction of those institutions. So I think we're making very serious mistakes here. I don't know what's going to happen to the markets over the next month or two. They certainly got a lot of momentum right now. What I do know is that at a moment when the economy was booming, we just shot the fiscal cannon with a big tax cut. And if economics knows one thing, it's that sooner or later there'll be a recession. And we fired off most of our ammunition already. And that's going to put us in a very problematic position when the next recession comes. And the administration's doing almost everything it can to make that worse, to already have the fiscal policy, to be trying, at least some days, to drive the dollar down, to be trying to strip away some of the protections and financial regulations to make the system safe when there's a downturn. I think it's a very risky strategy. And you can always drink a lot and feel good, but that doesn't mean that things are good and that they're going to stay good.
Larry Summers, a very tough prescription. Thank you very much for your diagnosis of the economy. And coming up, fighting back. Mayors from across the country boycotting a meeting with the president after a surprise crackdown on sanctuary cities. The leader of the mayors, Mitch Landrieu, joining me next. You're watching Andrea Mitchell Reports on MSNBC.